Hey everybody, it's Bob Bakert with Jazz Guitar. Today we're being joined by Mason Razavi. Is that correct?
You got it. Yeah.
God, I love it when I get it right.
Not everyone does, but you nailed it. You're a real
Uh,
pro, you know?
yeah, I'm old and I'll give you that. But anyway, how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing really well. Got a new record out and I'm busy teaching and playing, and it's great. It's great to have a new project in the pipeline. Always gets me fired up. So I'm doing great. Thank you.
Well, the reason we're talking today is we want to talk about your new record. I originally met you and heard you play at the Rocky Mountain Archtop Festival.
Yeah,
And
that's right.
I was, I don't pretend to know all the guitar players out there. I mean, I don't even come close to pretending to know all. And there's so many really, really great ones. But then, you know, people come around and they stand out. And you were one of those guys. I got to hear you play, and I went, wow, ooh, what's up with that? And
Oh man, it's nice of you to say. Thank you.
I remember your repertoire was very diverse, and I enjoyed that. I heard some original stuff. I heard some standards. I heard some pop tunes that I don't normally hear, and I just thought, wow, tone was great, and all that. So I thought it was really wonderful, and I have no idea why we haven't gotten a hold of you sooner. That's on me, of course. But you have a new record coming out, and
I
for people
do.
that don't know, you're in the Bay Area still. Are you living
hmm
in the Bay Area?
I do. Yeah, in Bay Area in
Yeah,
California. Yeah.
and you're a staple out there. I mean, from everything in your bio, you played about everything there is in the area and places outside the area, of course, and festivals and concerts and clubs, and you're a prolific educator, teacher as well. And you have a couple of different groups. I saw you play trio with organ. I saw you play trio with bass, which is my personal favorite for everything. I
hmm
really like guitar, bass, and drums.
hmm
I just that's my thing. And then you got a quartet, and you played with the symphony. You played in pit bands. You pretty much covering a whole lot. And the coolest thing is that you're also a recording artist and you have a brand new offering coming. So that's what we're here today for. Why don't you tell us all about that, Mason?
Sure. Actually, I think I have one right here. So this is my sixth album. It's called Even Keel, and it came out January 8th, and it's available everywhere you get your music. And this one's an organ record, and the band is a great Bay Area organist, my good friend Brian Ho,
Hmm.
who is really a wonderful musician who had a great record himself last year that he did with some pretty heavy hitting players from New York. And he's played with a lot of people who come out here when they're on tour, and he's kind of a staple on the scene here. And him and drummer Jason Lewis, who's another first call guy in the area, the two of them have played together for a very long time. And when I started to get on the scene, I started to play with them, and I quickly realized that, oh, this is a thing. This is going to work pretty well. Um, and over the years, I've gotten to do some nice gigs where I was able to bring in a guest, and I've brought in some different people. And I've brought in the saxophonist Charles McNeil a few times, and he's a used to be in the Bay Area, now he's in Las Vegas, and is just a really great sax player. He was kind of known in saxophone circles for his website that had hundreds of transcriptions that he did. So he's kind of known among sax players. But he's someone who I think deserves greater, a wider audience for sure.
Say that name
And
again. I'm sorry.
Charles McNeil.
Okay.
Yeah, wonderful sax player. And, I added him into the band, and it's just, I love the energy that he brought to the music. And he has kind of a certain edge to his playing that I really like, that complemented the music. And so I had this collection of originals and then a few standards to round it out. And yeah, it came out in the beginning of January 2025 here. And right now it's hitting the airwaves and hopefully getting some reviews and some good stuff happening. So we did an album release concert at the San Jose Jazz here that was sold out. That was awesome. And we did a couple of the Bay Area dates and working on other stuff. So yeah, that's been really fun. I really love playing with organ, as a guitar player. Like you mentioned guitar trio,
Hmm.
and I love trio playing because I like playing chords.
Yeah.
I'm always like mildly annoyed when I hear a guitar player play trio that doesn't play chords. And I think it's because I'm really like a composer arranger first. That's like what I got good at first, really.
Yeah,
And I just hear like guitar up here and bass down here and nothing in the middle, just a big hole. And I feel like I want to put stuff there, you know. So I love that kind of playing, but I feel like I have an obligation to play a lot of chords. And then on the flip side, if I play with a piano player, I feel like I have an obligation not to play a lot of chords. And what I love with organ is that it fits so well with guitar in a number of ways. One of them is the timbres of, organ and guitar. They don't really step on each other too much. Unlike piano where they're, it's essentially another string instrument, right?
right.
So with the organ, you can really, for me anyway, I feel like I can play as freely as I want. I can play a lot of chords or I can play no chords at all. And, Brian will pick it up on organ. And especially with Brian, he's such a good listener, and he really complements anybody that he's accompanying really beautifully and subtly and, is just a great listener. So, yeah, so I'm pretty excited about it. It's a collection of tunes that I'm proud of, and yeah, latest out of 6 records that I've done. So it's fun for me to document my own journey as an artist. And
Are the tracks on YouTube that have the organ trio, is that part of the new record or was that
yeah, we have. I'm not sure if any of these. Oh, yes. Well, there's okay. So I do have a video from the recording session from the album that I put out. And I have a couple of other things with organ on YouTube as well. I'm not sure what all is up there at the moment, but yeah, some of that stuff wound up on here. So I think there's like a Besame Mucho, like Wes Montgomery style that's not on the record, if that's what you're referring to. But we did one of the cool things we got to do is see one of the great jazz institutions here is SF Jazz in San Francisco, and they do this thing called the Hot Plate series, and they have artists come in and do the music from a famous record, and they tapped me to do Boss Guitar, Wes Montgomery.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that was a few years ago, and I did that with Brian and Jason, who are on the record. So the three of us kind of have the repertoire of those tunes, and we like to pull them out on gigs. So that's why you'll find the Besame Mucho on YouTube. But yeah, that was great, by the way. I mean, studying that music closely was really like an education. It was great.
Did you go after his solos or I mean how did you how
No,
go ahead.
mhm. No, I think, trying to sound like Wes Montgomery is a fool's errand. There's only one Wes. Um, Yeah, I mean, you know what it is. It's like some people they have such a strong signature sound, and if
Yeah,
you try to copy too closely, you either wind up sounding like a bad clone, or maybe
yeah,
even a good clone. But no, I didn't do that way. I mean, we played the tunes like they're on the record,
right.
this kind of similar tempos and the arrangements. But no, I just played like myself the best I could.
When I was in jazz school, I ended up transcribing some of Wes's stuff, and I marveled at the fact that his melodies and his approach was like nothing else. There was nobody, I mean, no other guitar player that I had ever, you know, followed approach things the way that he did, or and played the notes that he did when I just found him to be just totally unique and like Jeff Beck, you just can't imitate it convincingly. I don't think you can play octaves, with a thumb and hit a couple of notes and make it sound that way, but you can't do what Wes did at all.
And I think, when you said melodies, I I think to me that's the most incredible thing about Wes Montgomery. There's lots of amazing things, his unique technique and his sound and all this other stuff. But for me, what I love about Wes is just his solos are just like melody after melody.
Yeah,
Everything he plays is so melodic and so accessible. Like you understand why he was so popular and why he had so much, I think, crossover success. It was a different era, I think there was
yeah,
wider exposure for jazz artists maybe, but his sound is just melodic phrase one after the next, just without end. And
yeah.
I listened to that to me is truly mind-boggling. It's like, how do you do that as an how do you play all killer, no filler all the time? But the great improvisers can do that,
Trust me, I don't know.
We're all working on it. We're all working on it. But yeah, the great soloists can
I've
do
never
that.
heard that phrase before. What is it? All
All
filler,
killer, no filler.
all killer, no filler. Yeah,
That's
I
right.
could I turn that around. All filler, no killer. I you're right about. I mean, you're absolutely right about that. I hadn't thought about it. Um, I mean, he's he I put Jeff Beck and him, even though they're completely different styles, together in that they just make music, you know.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
Wes just made music, and he was very well aware of his of his pop records, and he was quick to identify that no, that's not jazz, you know.
But it's
That
so great. I mean, it's instrumental pop music, okay, but it's done at such a high level,
oh
like so
yeah,
tastefully. Yeah, it's that intersection of like stuff that's really popular that also has high artistic merit, you know.
I
It's
was
really impressive.
this I don't want to get I want to get back to your record in a second, but I was in my backyard mowing my family's lawn.
Hmm.
And we had a store, and people used to go to the store and they would cut through the lawns, cut through one yard to the next. And, our backyard was like a thoroughfare for the neighborhood. Everybody would come through this. It cut off probably a quarter mile of walking if you came through the backyards. And one of my neighbors, a gentleman, a guy now, I was a kid when Wes passed. And and he said, "Well, this is a bad day for you," because he knew I played guitar. So this is a bad day for you, isn't it? I said, "What are you talking about?" He says, "Well, Wes Montgomery died." And I went,
Hmm.
"Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
He died pretty
Wow."
young too.
Yeah, he did. I think he was in
Hmm.
his 40s when he died.
Hmm.
I don't have
Yeah.
that. But
So
so,
actually, I really quickly, as an aside, I want to ask you a quick question. So you probably heard Wes Montgomery when when it was new, right? And I mean, what was that like? Because must have been such a new sound, right? Nothing quite existed like him before.
well, I'll be honest. I wasn't into it at the time. I wasn't. I mean, well, I wasn't playing jazz. I wasn't listening to jazz. I was more of a let me see, pop rock. Uh, I love people like the Byrds and Buffalo Springfield, and obviously, the Beatles, and I like people like Vanilla Fudge. We did a lot of R&B in the bands I played in. Back in those days, there was no DJs, and every high school and church and all that on Friday and Saturday night had dances. And that was social life, for people
Mm-hmm.
from, there were teen dances. So people from say 13 to 19, from the high schools and the junior high schools at the time, they call them middle school now. And so I played in all those bands, you know, um, I played from the time I was, like 14 years old, gigging, doing those kinds of things. So that was really the music that I listened to, and emulated and played. And I also played bass in one of the bands that I played, and I also sang. But I didn't get really hip to jazz um, much till much later.
Hmm.
And I didn't really, I was more into when my first forays into jazz was listening to people like John McLaughlin, and you know so that was my idea of jazz. Al Di Meola, that was more, the guys that were basically playing rock. It even took me a while to get into people like Scofield. Robin Ford, I listened a little bit to him, but so the answer to your question is I don't know. Uh, when I really got into it was later on. I studied guitar a lot. This is my interview now. I'm being interviewed. Um, I studied guitar a lot. Over the years, I had like 16 different teachers. I went to Georgia State University and did that both as a vocalist and a guitarist. And that's when I really got kind of hooked into it, and why the magazine came about. And I've told the story before. Again, it sounds like my interview and not yours, and I apologize for that. Is I was the director of the Eastman Guitar Company for a couple of years after I retired from the business I was in, and I couldn't give away jazz guitars, and that's really all they made at the time. Couldn't give them away. I mean, if I told you what the numbers were, which I'm not going to, I have an NDA on that, but you couldn't give them away. And I'm sitting there studying, jazz in school, and the guys that were I was studying with, they had, they were playing Les Pauls and Tellys and 335s in pop bands at the time. And there was no gigs, there was no nothing. And jazz guitar, when we started the magazine, was dead. DEAD, nothing. And so I got into it when I went back to school and at Georgia State University and started studying jazz just to become a better player. I liked people, believe it or not, I liked people like Glenn Campbell's guitar playing. I thought he was pretty
Hmm.
pretty amazing. I
Oh
still think
yeah,
he's pretty amazing. But
sure.
anyway, so the answer to your question is, um, you know, I really don't I really don't know. I think Joe Pass was the first jazz guitarist that I ever really paid attention to, and I used to read Guitar Player magazine, from front to back, like over and over and over and over again from the time I was about 14 years old. So that's where I learned the names of Wes Montgomery and Joe Pass and all these different guys. And I bought the records. I had the records, and listened to them, but it wasn't my thing. My thing was more like, doing playing the Birds and playing the Beatles and
Right. Well,
playing,
no, very few people start out playing jazz, right? I mean, I
yeah,
started out as a self-taught rock guitar player like most of us, you know.
yeah.
You
Well,
mentioned Jeff Beck. I was a big Jimmy Page guy, you know.
uh,
Got a Les Paul and everything. Learned all those solos. I actually took at Berklee College of Music, believe it or not. This is going to make this is going to make people think it's like some joke school or something, but I actually took a class called the Jimmy Page Lab, and we just played Jimmy Page solos for a semester.
how'd that go?
It was fun, you know. I mean, I took a billion classes there, and many of them very challenging. That one was kind of let your hair down and have some fun. But I didn't really need it. I was playing all this stuff anyway, you know. But yeah, it's great fun, and I learned a lot, you know, from I learned a lot from rock music, you know. It kind of gets a short shrift a little bit. There's a lot of subtlety to rock music that you don't get unless you play it, you know. And I learned, and especially from Jimmy Page, I loved like the way he would overdub guitars and create these like soundscapes with guitar almost, you know. And so yeah, he was definitely a big early non-jazz influence of mine for sure. You know, we all start doing that stuff, right? And we kind of gravitate to jazz because of I don't know, some problem or another with us that gets us there, you know.
Some fundamental flaw that
Some fundamental, yeah, some character defect that turns us to jazz.
well, it's funny you say that about different styles of music and you being an educator. I used to think, bluegrass music was kind of a joke, and I thought that heavy metal was kind of a joke. I mean, I'm going back 20 years ago now. I mean, I just didn't, key of G, what's that? You want to play in B flat, you put the capo on the third fret. That was it. And then I tried to learn how to play it.
Hmm.
And one of my good buddies, Curtis Jones, is a virtuoso bluegrass player here in the Georgia area. And I got my ass handed to me. I mean, I that music is really, really hard to play. I mean, to play authentic bluegrass the way those guys play, and just like jazz players know if a guy's, full of crap or not, the bluegrass people know, what's up. And then so I finally had to say, I've been so wrong about this music. And when I hear a guy like, like Trey Hensley, people like that play, I just go, oh man,
Mm.
wow. It's really difficult. And the same thing with metal. I mean, what's going on with these guys' right hand and the rhythm you have to be able to, it's like that, try doing that, you know, play a
Yeah.
gig all night doing that and being good at it, it's just not that easy.
Hmm.
But anyway, getting back to Jimmy Page and rock and all that. Yeah, I mean, um, the difference in tone, the difference in the bends, getting the intonation correct on the bends and 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 all music, as far as I'm concerned, is time. And in getting those triplets and all that stuff to happen, in
Yeah.
meter where it's driving the music,
Right.
that's not
Well,
easy. That's not easy stuff. Let's get back to you composing.
yeah.
So when you're composing, what are your thought processes in composing? Where are you going? Who are you
Yeah.
influenced by? And
Yeah. You know, I when I went off to college, you know, I went to Berklee College of Music and then my hometown San Jose State for grad school. And when I went off to Berklee, the plan was to learn how to compose and arrange and then move down to LA and write music for like maybe jingles, video games, TV, film, all that kind of stuff. So I did a jazz composition degree for a while and then I switched to their commercial arranging production degree with that aim. And so I kind of really, you know, learned how to compose there for all sorts of different mediums and instrumentations. And I was listening to all kinds of music at that time. I would go to the library in Berklee College of Music and I'd pull out a score and I'd follow along with the recording. I was doing that with like the George Gershwin, Rhapsody in Blue, American in Paris. I was into checking out like the Duke Ellington's orchestral works. And these classes that we had, they all went really deep, on these various techniques and ideas. I mean, it's so like niche and specific, to take jazz composition classes and not just like one general class, but like one after the next semester length classes. So we went really deep on all sorts of music. And my own influences composing, that's actually kind of harder to say than the playing part, because I think I just have taken in so much music on the composition side. But I love music that is kind of heady but still accessible. And
Right,
um, and so I came out of school with a bunch of music that I had written and for various instrumentations, and eventually I kind of like pared some of that down to five horns and rhythm section, and I cut a record with that. I actually put out a classical guitar album first, all original music for classical guitar. That's a weird aside I went to. Um, but I had all this jazz music that I had written that I wanted to do something with. And kind of the interesting thing about that is that I put together these bands and I'm playing the music, and I have to say I was struggling to play a lot of that music because my focus was really the writing. And I went,
right.
I want to put this music out, but no one's going to champion it for me. I have to play it. It's not like I'm not a classical composer where I'm like writing a symphony or something and I can have some orchestra play it. It's
Yeah,
like, jazz tunes, you got to get it out there and do it. So a lot of it has been like composing and then getting my playing in order over the past, I don't know, however long it's been now, 10, 15 years, whatever it is, to be at the same level as my writing. But when I sit down to write, it's one of those things that, I can get lost in it. I lose track of time. It's the kind of thing where I sit there and after a while I go, why does my back hurt? Why am I so hungry? Why is it dark outside? What is going on? Um, so I kind of, yeah, it's that sort of thing for me. And, I love the exploration of different sounds and just trying to make things work together. Um, and yeah, I think about it that way. I don't force it too much. Like I don't say I'm, um, gonna write this kind of a tune or that kind of a tune. A lot of times I just start it and see where it takes me. And there have been some things I've written that have been, inspiration strikes, and you go, oh, I got to write this down. There was a tune I wrote one day. I was taking a walk, and I started humming it in my head, came down, wrote it down, and it wound up on my one of my albums. It's called Urban Jungle Blues, and it's this like mixed meter blues tune that I wrote almost the whole thing on a walk, and then had to just put it down on the page. But that's like the one time I can think where that happened. The rest of the time, it's me sitting at a piano and slaving away. And it's usually more like, mechanical and not as romantic as that. It's more like, okay, I'm going to try to employ this certain composition technique and see what I can put on the page and what happens and where it goes. And so, yeah, I do love to compose. I have to say, I haven't composed as much as I used to in recent years because, again, I'm so focused on the playing and I'm really like a player now. Like I'm really dialed into that. But, I still sit down and write tunes. I still teach composing, arranging a little bit, and it's definitely near and dear to my heart. And I've written music for, I have two records that are called the Quartet Plus records, Volume 1, Volume 2, half quartet, half nonet, so nine-piece band.
Hmm.
I'm really proud of that music, some really beautiful playing from the group on those albums. I have, like I mentioned, a solo classical record. My first record was a solo classical guitar record, and I wrote a five-movement suite that I had envisioned as being about a monster. And then I hired an animator to make an animated film. And he set the film to my music, not the other way around.
Right.
And he did a beautiful, beautiful job doing that. So it's like a 15-minute animated film, which is up on YouTube, and it's part of that record. And I haven't I put that out in 2012, and I went back and I re listened to it again recently. I usually don't listen to my own music, but every few years, every like 4 or 5 years, I'll check it out again. I usually do that and I sort of brace. I go, oh man, it's gonna be rough. But I'm really proud of that music. I was super inspired at that time, and so yeah, I've been musically like all over the map. It took me a long time to figure out that I want to be a jazz guitar player, and it took me a little while after that to figure out what that really actually meant and
Right.
what kind of commitment that requires and what I have to sacrifice in order to do this one thing a little better. Um, so yeah, I've bounced around a little bit between different things, different styles, whatever. But when I figured out, okay, I'm going to try to distill all that into being a quote unquote jazz artist, that's been really rewarding for me. And I think you can, as an artist of any genre, you can sort of channel all your influences and all your experience into your current sound and kind of present it that way. Um, so
Well,
yeah, it's been a bit of a musical journey for sure. It also makes me, I think, feel like a good teacher because I have these different perspectives, from different styles of music and different styles of guitar playing. Mentioning like rock. I mean, I have played rock guitar very seriously. I played classical guitar very seriously. There was a while where I thought that was what I was going to do with my life.
wow, that's tough.
Yeah, I actually got into the grad school for classical guitar. I like taught myself over a few years and then got into school and I went, maybe I'll do this.
Well, no wonder your technique is so clean.
Thanks. Yeah, well, tone production is a big deal in
Yeah,
classical
no,
guitar.
I believe me, I have one. I know.
It's like a different instrument.
It,
You know,
it
so
it it is very much a different instrument than what we play for rock, blues, jazz,
yeah.
even
Yeah, right.
acoustic folk music. It's a whole different thing.
But you know what I love about all that though is each style of music, I mean, the guitar generally is so versatile to be able to do all these different styles, and
Right.
in each one, you'll find the guitar being uniquely expressive,
Oh
right?
yeah.
So when you pick up a
It's
classical
the
guitar and you
greatest
do,
instrument on the planet. I've been doing it since I was 12 years old or 11 years old. There's
right?
no question. And to me, the guitar is the greatest. I mean, some people would say the piano is the granddaddy of it all, but man, I can't put the piano in the back of my car and, drive to a gig.
Yeah.
Electronic piano, but they're not the same.
Well, you pick up a classical guitar and you do a tremolo, right hand tremolo thing. You don't get that in rock or blues guitar. And
No.
then you listen like Stevie Ray Vaughan and you go, okay, well, you don't get that in classical guitar. You listen to, all these different styles. Each one is uniquely expressive. And so I've tried to, I think over the course of my, artistic career, my discography anyway, you'll hear a little bit of all of that in there. I have a couple of kind of rock guitarish moments, not many. I have, some nylon string guitar moments. My last record was a solo guitar record. It's called Six String Standards. And I did most of the tracks with my L5 and I did, one on my Sadowski, but I had also a couple of acoustic instruments too, a steel string and an Allen string acoustic. And, I just really relish the sound of different guitars and
Oh yeah.
the way they inspire you.
I was going to ask you about your L5. Well, before you talk about different
Yeah.
guitars, I mean, then there's
hmm
guys like Larry Carlton who plays most of the time on his 335.
hmm
And there are guys that that's the guitar that they play. That's what they're known for. But anyway, you do play an L5 a lot.
I do. I got it right next to me here.
Let me see that
Yeah,
bad
take a
boy.
look here. Yeah. I got a little thing on it here to keep it from pinging back
Is
there.
that a full 17-inch L5?
Oh yeah.
You're just a big guy, and
Yeah.
so it doesn't drown you.
Well, I'm not I feel like this guitar is a little big for me, when I play it. I feel like this guitar is built for our good friend Bruce Foreman. He's the right guy for an L5. What is he like 6'4" or something? He should be playing his L5, which he does. I definitely bear hug this thing a little bit. It's big deep guitar,
No,
but
I know. I
great
used to have
sound.
one.
Yeah. And
Thing about it, L5, it's the guitar. That's like a 427 Cobra. Everybody wants one. You got to have one, got to have one, got to have one. And
mm,
I finally bought one. It's a long story. I played about 30 of them before I found one that I really liked. I liked it. It developed problems, but I ended up not playing it so much because it's so deep. And I'm 5'10", 155 pounds, and I swam in that thing.
yeah,
Yeah,
I'm about your height too. And it is big, and they are really different.
they
I
definitely
actually
they sound different than anything else out there. This is a full body 17-inch guitar as well, single pickup. It's very acoustic though. The L5 is not nearly as acoustic as this is, but this doesn't have that driving tone that the L5 can
yes.
give you.
Yeah, well, L5 is a unique animal. Like on my solo guitar record on Six String Standards, we actually stereo mic'd it and
Yeah,
also had the Henriksen amp. And then, the engineer pulled the mics up way high in the mix, and we wound
yeah,
up going with that because it sounded like pristine. It was really
yeah.
nice. It's not really
I,
what you think of as an L5 sound, but it's pretty cool.
I love L5s. I mean, I'm like every time I see one, it's like me seeing a 427 Cobra. It's like an L5. I mean, it's like I love L5s. I mean, I
Yeah,
really
it's a great guitar. I mean, it's become my main guitar. I mean, I've had it
yeah.
since I want to say 2016. I got it from my good friend Mark Arroyo, who's another guitar player in the area, and he made it easy for me to own. So it was
So
nice.
when you came to Rocky Mountain Art Shop Festival, you weren't playing an L5 though, were you? Weren't you playing something else?
No, I was the first time I came out there, I thought I might bring it, and Peter Henriksen told me, he says, there might be guitars here for you to play. Um,
There might
a-
be.
yeah, actually, the first year I was honored that he said this. He's told me he'd be honored if I played his dad's guitar. And so the first year I
Wow.
did that. Yeah, and that was really special because Henriksen amps, shout out to Peter Henriksen, our good friend,
Right.
who's a great dude, and I've been playing their amps since I think 2012 or so, and I'm a huge fan. I love the amps. And I've come to get to know Peter and the company a little bit, and he's a great dude. And I guess the story is that his dad played a Sadowski Jim Hall model, and that
Mhm.
became the impetus for starting the company because his dad wanted to build an amp for that guitar. If I understand correctly, hopefully I'm paraphrasing that right.
That sounds pretty good.
Yeah, and then his dad passed some years ago, and so the first time I came out and I was asking Peter about guitars, I said I'd be honored if you play my dad's guitar. I said, well, the
Wow.
honor is mine. I'd love to do it. So I did that, and this past year we went. I played other luthiers' guitars because, it's you want to help the luthiers out. You want
Yeah,
people
sure.
to see their guitars, and so we did that. Yeah, this past year I mostly played a guitar from Darcy Blake, who's kind of a younger
Mhm.
builder coming up.
Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful guitar. That's what I played in the organ trio night at the Art Shop Festival. And I also played a great guitar by Tim Frick, who's a former Bay Area resident. He's now up in Portland. Built a great guitar. Yeah, no shortage of amazing instruments, and I was just happy to play them and help out the luthiers, I guess, if that helps them, to have people see them being played.
Well,
Um,
getting
and
back getting back to Peter, yeah, there's a Bud 10 right over here to
hmm
my right, and then
Yep.
downstairs is my gigging, my original Bud with the 6 inch. Um,
Yep.
I mean, that's just that's just the sound. I mean, it's just the sound. And if I'm playing more of a rock thing, I've even a club that I was playing in a lot. I for about 10 years I used to play Thursday nights at a club. It's part of a jam session thing and all that. But they had an original jazz amp there. I used to put pedals into that, and it sounded great.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because
No, I.
I was playing, playing this guitar a lot, which is
hmm
an I-35 Collings, kind of
Oh, yeah.
335-ish,
hmm
or a Strat, or a Tele even. And the Hendrickson amplifier always, it's just the quality is just there.
It always delivers. I
Yeah.
remember I had an original jazz amp, 12-inch ER, and it's like, man, this is amazing, And then when the Bud came out, I went to try it out thinking, well, okay, this will be cool. It's not going to replace, the bigger amp.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't really believe, And blessed are those who believe even though they don't see, because I went and I plugged it in, I went, this is insane, and I wound up selling my 112 to a bass player friend of mine. And my Bud 6, my original Bud, that was my main gigging amp for many years. I mean, I've played hundreds of gigs with that amp, including, big band, organ trio,
You don't have
loud
to tell
clubs,
me.
big
I
stages, everything. It's
I
amazing.
took I took it to a lot of acoustic guitar gigs because I sing,
hmm
and I'd run my mic into one channel and run the guitar another channel, and
hmm
I would play for 50 to 100 people, and that was it. That was the PA system, and that was everything, and it worked great. It sounded great. It didn't over, it plenty loud enough for what I was doing, and I love it. Um. So let's talk about your teaching just a little bit because we
Sure.
gotta run. We're getting long on time here, but
hmm
um, so do you teach online as well as in person, or tell me about
Sure.
that a little bit.
Yeah. So I do. I teach at a college in the area here called West Valley College, where I teach. I'm like the studio jazz guitar teacher there, and teach a couple other things. And then I have a small private studio, and yeah, I can also teach online too. I've had a few people reach out for that, so I've got a pretty good setup for online teaching. So yeah, if anybody wants to reach out to get a lesson, I also have some materials up for sale on my Gumroad page. I have a few studies that focus on self-comping, like playing and then playing chords underneath yourself. Remember when
Right.
I said earlier, it's like a pet peeve of mine when guitar players play trio and they don't play any chords. So you know what, Bob, you got to be the change you want to see in the world. So that's what I did. I put those suckers out there.
Well, that's the whole thing behind this magazine. There was nobody, jazz guitar was dead, and I thought I can do something about that.
Yeah, it's really great. I mean, by the way, I should say I'm a fan of the magazine. I mean, I get all the emails, I read some of the features, I've watched the interviews, so it's fun for
Thank
me to
you.
be here.
I
It's really
appreciate
great
that.
what you're doing.
So, to that end, let's just say this, that people, if you're enjoying our programming today with Mason, a couple things. One is check out his music, purchase if you can, blah, 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 blah. Get the t-shirt, the whole nine yards.
Yeah. It's the
Uh,
15-month calendar.
yeah, but it's the fireman pose that I kind of like. That's the one I really.
It's a popular one, yeah.
Well, yeah, you gotta keep people happy.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so like, share, follow, subscribe, do all the stuff that you're supposed to do to help us grow the channel. We really appreciate it. Many of you know that I had a bit of a health problem starting last March, and I'm coming back from that pretty well. Doctors tell me I'm doing great, but I wasn't quite as active with the magazine last year. Joe Barth did an amazing job of keeping written content going. I did some interviewing, but not as much as we had done. So I'm back. I think I've done 4 interviews in the last week and a half or two, and got a lot of stuff going, in contact with a lot of people. So please like, share, follow, and do all those things, and check out Mason's stuff. He's definitely one of the guys. I love it when a guy's got a technique and can really play, but also has the education and understands what's going on and what he's doing. There's, I just, I like that a whole lot. I really, in reading your bio, I was very appreciative of what you've done. And what's interesting is you're talking about classical guitar. I spent some time trying to learn that instrument. That's a tough instrument to play. All the different things that you do and that you've done, and I want good things for you, man. I want good things for you. So,
Man, I so appreciate that. It's I love being an artist, and I love being on this journey. But yeah, it has its challenges for sure. And so it's great to know that there's folks like you out here creating these opportunities for us and making it happen. So I super appreciate it. And
oh,
yeah,
thank
I'm
you.
going to keep playing the craft, keep making the music and making things happen.
I mean, well, let me mention, my partner, Joe Perry, who really makes all the behind it, he's the one who makes this thing happen, along with Raul and Valerie Amador, who are kind of the silent people. They also have Bass Musician magazine, and they do about 6 magazines, and they're a big part of what's going on. And then I don't want to miss Joe Barth, who has been an incredible contributor to a whole lot of things that we're doing. His knowledge of jazz guitar is crazy, and he knows everybody out there, and he's done an amazing job. I want to make sure that big shout out to Joe for what he contributes. Um, Mason, thank you very much. And make sure we've got everything we need to have on the new recording. What's the title of it?
Yeah, sure. I'll show it again here. It's called
Yeah,
Even Keel. It's guitar, organ, sax, drums, bunch of originals, few standards. Really great band. I'm really proud of that record. So it's it's getting to radio stations cross country. Find it Spotify. Get a CD on Bandcamp. I'll sign it and write a nice note for you.
love it.
You can use them as coasters. You can use them for skeet shooting. CDs are going to come back. They're going to come back. Everything comes back eventually. So you're going to want to stock up
I,
because in 20 years, you're not going to want to be in a situation where you don't have enough CDs. You want to be there for the.
I'm covered. I'm covered. I have I have one I did about 10 years ago. I still got 3 or 4 boxes of it. So
Mm, yeah.
um at any rate, but anyway, well, thank you very much. Bob Bakert for Jazz Guitar Today with Mason. Say your own name,
Yep.
Razavi.
You got it. Mason Razavi. Yeah. Thanks a lot, Bob.
God,
Appreciate you,
I
man.
love it that I got that right. I got to tell you, man. That's an intimidating name. Intimidating. Well, I love your playing, and I really do appreciate it. Thank you, Bob Bakert, Mason. Thank you, buddy. Talk to you, man. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Bye bye.
You too. Thanks.